only drop me because I voted for things that directly impact them.
Because you think of this shit as theoretical.
These type of people will always show some sort of rich people class solidarity when it really boils down to it, whether they do it in front of our faces or not.
There's only so long people can have sympathy or grace or understanding for people simultaneously being dumb, then also wanting to be in power and put their foot on other people.
Our very ideology gets threaded when we do not feel like we're the smartest or we do not feel we understand immediately. And that kind of influences how we work through everything.
I think it's an integrity issue more than anything, and I think it just like showcases that integrity is political.
There was a line he said where he was like, you know, growing up, I was taught to respect the office, which to me just sounds like one of those white people things. That's what he's trying to appeal to, are white people who are like, well, you know, the president is the president.
Hello, beautiful Black people. Honestly, I know exactly where we're beginning, which is a funny place considering that the entire nation has been on fire, both literally and proverbially, since before, but certainly since Donald Trump has officially become president again. He has quite literally signed over 200 evil ass executive orders. Like, there's just way too much shit to cover
In
on
3 days.
That is bad. Yeah, there's way too much bad. And honestly, I wasted my good time trying to tell everybody everything bad that was going to happen that's now happening. So not doing that anymore. Let's talk about Nelly and them. Like, Nelly, Snoop Dogg, Soulja Boy, Rick Ross all performed at different inauguration related events. And I also saw recently that Eddie Griffin was also in attendance at these events, and I just felt like I shouldn't let that off the hook for that. I saw it. I said, enough don't know. I'm gonna make sure I mention that. So yeah, are we ashamed?
I'm tired of being shocked by this kind of behavior. Like, it's not a surprise. I think we've all known that this is about class more than race, and it has been that way for a really long time. Like, yeah, they're going to do this. And when the check goes the other way, they'll go that way too.
Ashamed, but not surprised.
Think, like, should we really be focused on stuff like this? Because these type of people will always show some sort of rich people class solidarity when it really boils down to it, whether they do it in front of our faces or not. But at the same time, I'm still disappointed. Don't get me wrong. Because that's some clown shit, especially Snoop Dogg. That's some clown shit to say what he said and then in the past and do what he's doing now and basically tell us to go, fuck ourselves and whatnot. Like that's
right.
crazy.
Like there's different levels of culpability
At
to
the
me.
end of the day, Snoop Dogg is hanging out with Martha Stewart, not us.
I was going to say, like, there is something so... My dog drinking water loud as fuck. I was like, did something break? Okay, sorry. I was like, did something break open? Okay. There's something so like cyclical about stuff like this. So I wouldn't say ashamed, because at this point I've dropped all like expectations for celebrities in general, or just those who have a particular closeness to power. In any like if it were a different politician up there. I think it's just funny in a way that these people tend to, at one point or another, were the most vocal anti-establishment rappers, or or people who visibly represented something for a lot of people. And at the end of the day, to show that they only represented their own interest is not surprising to me. I guess disappointing, but I don't have very high standards for, I don't have high expectations, I should say, for people who I've gotten the sense have always put their acquiring of money over the benefit of what they represent or who they actually come in contact with. You done drinking?
What's funny, I think it's sorry. I was gonna say, I think it's an integrity issue more than anything, and I think it just like showcases that integrity is political, and people who lack integrity typically slide further to the right, if you ask me. I don't know. They just aren't principled. I don't even think they're standing on anything as far as class solidarity. I think they're just people who saw a check and they truly don't have any like loyalty to any true cause or community.
But there is
Yeah.
something about appealing to class that is one of the few virtues, quote unquote, that they can do without having any integrity. So it's like whoever has the money has my backing. That is the one thing that is principle to them. That is their one principle. And I think more and more as we see, you know, our Luigi's and our like going against very, you know, ostentatiously against higher power structures. This is looking very like French Revolution to me. I'm seeing very like early, and maybe that's me just being like a dramatic person, but I'm like it's getting bleak. So
I think
whatever.
maybe the more, if there's anything to pay attention to, it's how it is how the Black community is reacting
That's what I was
to
about to say.
like
That's it right there.
to them flipping, like to the transgression, because
Mhm.
the, you know, I will say, I want to put out first that I do think most Black people understand that this is shit, that this is unacceptable, and like it's a very easy call to be like, why the fuck are you samboing for the white supremacists? But there's like a particular type of either fan of hip hop or of Snoop Dogg or of these artists that kind of connects the ethos of rap to somehow being of rap and blackness to being basically anti-black or really anti-worker. This is to say that Snoop Dogg and people like Rick Ross and Nelly, they never said they were committed to the streets. They said they were committed to the grind, to the bag. And like, right. And like, when you I hear in conversations about this, like I regrettably was watching No Jumper react to this. And like, the way that they saw it was more so of like, you know, at the end of the day, because I do see that these people are of a higher class than me, but I still like fantasize about being them one day. I'm like, oh, this must be what the streets look like. This must be what the grind looks like to them. So it's like, you know, of course they need to get money, and not everybody gonna like when you get money, even if it hurts the people that you say you fight for, that you are in community with. And so they're like, actually, he's a real mafia boss. Like he's actually a great businessman because he's willing to harm his own. And it becomes justified in this weird masculinity type of way.
My problem is Black people only ever seem to take on this pro-capitalist framework to excuse f***ed up anti-Black behavior when it's Black men. Like that, like, so for me, it's like, I don't care. I'm not personally outraged or anything like that, but I do think it's worth exposing what is a consistent hypocrisy and how these different things never get talked about. Like, Chrisette Michelle ain't had they ain't let us sing a motherfucking hook since then. You know what I mean? Like, you did that. I don't want to hear it. No one wanted to hear shit from Chrisette. They don't care what the rationale was. Nobody cared how much Chrisette did or did not get paid. And that's how it would be. Even if there was some big Black women, it could have been much bigger stars. If it had been a bunch of Black women who performed for Trump, they would nail them to the cross. And that would be what the analysis is. And I think my problem is you see, and this is written for years now, many, many years. And it's probably since the dawn of time, but I'm talking about since when I've been plugged into caring about the zeitgeist and what's happening. But Black male celebrities, and particularly in hip hop, but these celebrities in general, very often come out and be some straight up coons. Like very often be tap dancing for a Trump. Like we've seen it. We've seen all the Kanye's, We've seen Lil Wayne and them. We've seen all of them be on this. And it's just like the way the culture just doesn't care, just moves on. No one is going out of their way to try to indict Lil Wayne and these people of their images with Donald Trump and them and all the different times they said. And that's what they do, and they move on. And I think it's very interesting to me. I think worth pointing out that as you've seen over the last, like, especially you see it in people have taken a way of being very anti-Black and trying to wrap it up in this like pro-Black, like it's pro-Blackness, but it's anti-Black, right? And we've seen it. That person's not Black. They're not Black enough. If you're not a full Black American, if you don't have this many Black American grandparents, you're not black enough. You don't care about black people. You're not committed to the community, right? Like they do that all the time. We just had a whole election cycle where was speaking more highly, speaking in better favor of whole white supremacist Donald Trump than they wanted to speak of a Kamala, because now they want to question her blackness, her partner ain't black, she ain't this, she's mixed, she ain't a whole, you know what I mean? All of that. But meanwhile, I could just start trotting out black men, full-throated American black men who have been out here all over in public tap dancing for Donald Trump, and like, again, from the celebrities, from the musicians to all these artists, straight up to all the politicians, all the Byron McDonald's or whatever. And that never gets like, that's never supposed to be a reflection of their blackness on the community as a whole or anything like this. But when we want to get anti these particular kind of black women, when we want to get anti-black people who are not full-throatedly American, all of a sudden we believe in buying all these things. So I think I just want to expose a hypocrisy on not even just a part of these artists and their integrity, but how the community responds, who the community responds to in a particular kind of way, right? Because I guarantee you, if it had been Drake, if it had been somebody who was not an American, one of these artists or whatever, they would be talking about, oh, they're not tied to the culture, and that's why they felt like they could do that Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. They'd be saying all that shit. But when it's a black American artist tap dancing and doing all this or whatever, all of a sudden it's like, well, let's really think about this, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like and those artists know it too, because they play on different frameworks. I think it's a good time, Aaron, if you play one of those clips from Nelly where he intentionally tried to make it like, which is true that black people know we have to historically work with people we don't like, but he took that and tried to co-opt that and twist that to justify why he needed to sing songs.
100%. That's what Jay-Z did on that Twitter shit, that Twitter Spaces, where he was just like, oh, y'all made up the word not capitalism, whatever the fuck he said, right? That shit was bullshit. That's what they do.
For me, the political part is over. He won. And, you know, growing up, I was taught to respect the office. So, you know, Nelly's here.
And you did get a little backlash, but you were like, whatever, I don't care. I'm doing what I want to do. This is, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you were really cool about it. You handled it well. You came forward and you talked about it. A lot of people wouldn't do that. Why did you come forward and talk about it?
Well, because I think it's important that, you know, we show some people have their own opinions about things, you know, and sometimes things can get a little bit hazy and in a way that everybody feels the same way about everything. And that's just not it. I think certain people have an outlook. And I've always believed that you got to walk through the fire sometimes to get results. And regardless of what you feel about it, we as a people, and I mean, you know, my heritage as far as being African American, we've always had to work with people that we may not have always agreed with to get things done. And I think that struggle continues. But at the end of the day, if the men and women of this country can put their life on the line for a president that they may not have voted for, I can definitely perform for the office.
Let me ask y'all something. What are black people? What is by performing Nelly's greatest hits, by sucking it up, gritting his teeth and bearing it, and performing his greatest hits? What were black people gonna get? Like, we need to, you know, you gotta sometimes work people to get things done. What did Nelly leverage for the black community? What did he get for black people?
What did you get done, Nelly? What did you
do? I went to school for accounting for 5 years. I don't know how the black dollar comes out when it goes into a white room. Like, they didn't teach us that in class. And like, actually, to your point, Olay, about like using a certain type of language that to appear pro-black, but it's anti-black, like having that clip up really cements that point, because the actual, an even better way of thinking, I would have maybe accepted a bit more, is that ultimately, when we talk about the two main artists, Snoop Dogg and Nelly, there's always, since the Bling Bling era, right, there's always been a tension between the fact that once you get popular enough, the way you're making your millions is the fact that you make black music that white teenagers can afford to ask their parents to make to go tickets to get merch for. And I heard someone bring up that like we have to consider time, that like for a lot of these like young MAGA heads, like these people that are like in their early 20s, late 20s, like they grew up like mid to late 30s. They grew up with Nelly and Snoop Dogg, I guess, on the radio. And so like that is actually the audience that he's talking about. And my thing is like, I think Nelly knows that.
Yeah.
I think Nelly totally understands that, like, for real, the people that are buying my records in enough quantities that I can pay for my big house no longer look like me. And so when I say I got to take one for the team, I mean, like, I need to perform for for who I accept as my fan base.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's, I could try to do Fest, but they paying me, $50K in crypto.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you want me to do?
There was a line he said where he was like, growing up, I was taught to respect the office, which to me just sounds like one of those white people things. Like, oh, like, okay, who cares? It doesn't matter. That's not real. But that's what he's trying to appeal to, are white people who are like, well, the president is the president. And like boomers and Gen Z black people who are going to be like, well, I still got to respect the president. It's like, no, you don't actually. You don't have to take his money.
You don't have to do shit.
I actually don't even, and the thing is, I don't even believe someone else made this point online that I don't even think the reason that they get these rappers and these particular rappers or whatever, except maybe a Snoop Dogg, why they got them has anything to do with them liking them or them wanting to see their performance or anything. You could see what the audience looks like stiff as they're performing. I think it's purely to piss us off, to show
absolutely.
Like, we can get these, we give you all the right dollar amount and you niggas will tap dance for us, right? And I think that's the real thing for it. And I think in a Nelly's case, like, granted, Nelly definitely does have his little country hits he gave them that they love, you know what I mean? They loved him from He Put Old Boy on the record, and I think he might have given them some more that we didn't even hear about, right? So I think he does have obviously a kind of white pop audience, but I really think when it comes to, I think it's less that they're the people that are buying his music now, and more so that no one's really buying his music. So I'm going to jump at this opportunity, big money I might not typically get. And I think it's misguided. He might think it's going to create him a new audience, that people are going to do this little Vegas residency. But honestly, I think if I've looked at how those have played out, especially for black artists of the time of a Nelly, like you look at who's in Usher audience and all these people, it's going to be the black aunties that pay for that thing. And I really think you've pissed them off. I think Nelly is somebody who definitely needs a black auntie base who was out voting for their Kamala. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he thought that one out. And I also hate that he made Ashanti have to catch the L by association. Like,
I hated that. I hated that.
These niggas come out and embarrass black women. We're not upset us. Like, we like Ashanti so much. We let you have your rekindling, and we supported it, even though you have three different lawsuits accusing you of rape, and we still let Ashanti have it. We like, you know what? We're not even gonna say nothing. Ashanti, you have it. And now you come out here making it in a way where got to be like, no, Ashanti.
The thing that really disgusted me, I just recently saw, I don't know who it was. It might have been Charlie Kirk or somebody like that. I'm not on Twitter, so I don't know. I saw a link recently where they're basically using Nelly and Snoop against us.
Yeah.
And they're saying like, oh, here's the tide is changing. You see what's over here? We got the blacks on our team. And I'm like, are you
and you know what, Jay Sean, to your point, I think you started with like, should we even be talking about this then? Because like, let's be real, like this doesn't even really piss us off that much. It's just like confounding and a bit irritating. It's just like, I know you're going to bring this up to your black hairdresser one day being like, oh, you see Trump got Snoop Dogg. Yeah, listen, we post-racial now. Like, this is just a new microaggression that we're going to have to deal with this year. But like, it's...
Play Nelly's other remarks, Aaron. Because Nelly just kept making it worse. Because the funny thing is, again, the sad thing is, again, will embrace a pro-capitalist framework to defend who do cool stuff. So they were like, okay, it's the money, it's the money, it's the money. And Nelly was like, no! It's not the money. It's not the money.
No. They don't love you like I love you.
Yeah. Okay, this is me service. I respect the office. Okay.
Oh, God.
I'm gonna get. He did not. I'm gonna get to it. He did not rent to people. What was in the 70s or the 80s? Is that what they said? And like, oh, okay, is he written to him now?
Let's just talk about why someone who is black.
Oh, pause before you play with Baron Lathan's remarks, Aaron.
Running to them now.
Let me just make sure I read the statement because there's a whole actual statement before he even came on the video stuttering about, what racist has Donald Trump done lately. So he said, his quote was, "I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because it's an honor. I respect the office. It don't matter who is in office. The same way It's like he remixed the same thing we heard him say, but I'm gonna repeat it one more time. The same way our men and women, our brothers and sisters who protect this country have to go to war and who have to put their life on the line for whoever's in office. So if they can put their life on the line for whoever's in office, I can damn sure perform for whoever's in office. I would ask critics to show me where he's ever been a white supremacist.
Oh my god!
Oh gosh!
Like,
Jeez.
no,
Okay.
wait. No. Before you press play, I think
that's why Van Lathan them started
right. No, before you press play, Aaron, I feel like that's a great time to point out this part that I think maybe is not a breakthrough, but something that I guess I tried not to believe for a long time, that this Republican Party truly is seen as like anti-establishment.
That makes
in a really deep road type of way, and that reverberated through like every other counterculture, because like we just never considered like a lot of the things that tie hip hop together that made it, I guess let's just say made it commodifiable, was the idea of just being anti-establishment, anti whoever are specifically I'm really now the eggheads in power. Like they respect power, they identify power, and I feel like the reason for any of these type of rappers to make this shift over, and then like in a way that they I guess didn't for George 43 or you didn't see them doing this shit for Romney. I prefer them do it for Romney. It was just like, nah, he's too right. It was like because they made them feel dumb. They were like, oh no, you a clever white racist. Like this one, I get this one. He just believes in power. Like he's just gonna pay me. He's just gonna get my homies off. He basically works more like a drug lord more than a politician, and like that's somehow anti-establishment, even though that's how Wall Street works anyway.
Negroes are as dumb as people like to convince you that they are, to excuse them whenever like an in trouble. And I mean anybody, like you see them doing it now with the Elon Musk stuff. Oh, like he's a genius, but he also doesn't know that's a Nazi salute. Like it's always like ignorance is always defense, right? And it's like a bunch of powerful, well-moneyed, well-connected niggas are not at home thinking that Donald Trump and them are anti-establishment. It makes no sense. Like I think what frustrates me about America is whenever white supremacists and the powers that be and the right whomever come up with a new excuse, like a new pretense to justify what is a massive support for racism, I cannot understand for the love of God why we pretend that they're genuine. Like these obviously disingenuous bullshit reasons they provide you. Like, yeah, we believe the billionaires in them, they're anti-establishment. What? Who's already been president before? What the are we talking about? It makes no sense. Like both things can't be true. It cannot be the rich billionaire that you love, that you think is like, okay, let me align myself with power and money and capitalism, but that's also my anti-establishment working man candidate. Like they don't believe that bullshit. They just say that, and I think it's this way that you're always like, if you spend all this time, if people gaslight you when you want to address like a problem. Racism issue, you never get around to discussing the issue. It makes me think of the early years of Black Lives Matter when they did everything was about pretending they didn't understand the expression Black Lives Matter. You're going to be fighting and defending this. Why it's not all lives matter all the time. They are playing crazy like they don't understand, just so you could never actually make any demands and you could never talk about anything substantive. It's always this, wait, I'm not sure I get it.
The gaslight and the gatekeep.
If you could explain it, but also shut the up, like that'd be great.
It's that plausible deniability that they rely on. And that's what Elon Musk is doing, and that's what you see other people doing defending him. They're doing that big time, right? That's not really what it looks like. No, that's not really what he meant. And blah,
it's
blah,
Roman.
Blah,
get the out of here, bro.
People just need to say that. Y'all full of shit.
Yeah, I think it's part of the self-protective mechanisms of like things like white supremacy and patriarchy, to be honest, because when you really think about it, it all comes down to like the patriarchy and how, like, because you mentioned, Olay, earlier about how women are held to such a higher standard. And like if a Black woman were to do this, like the standard is always different. And I think systems like white supremacy and patriarchy like rely on manipulative tactics to like maintain power, and I think this is what we're describing. I just also want to say that Nelly is a coon and he's just broke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Look at the coon.
Play bad.
Donald Trump now. Trump will eliminate, he says, funding for any school. This is now. This is now. Any school that promotes racial equity or confronts the reality of racism in the nation's history. Trump has also, for all our brothers that grow up in the neighborhoods, promised immunity for police officers accused of police brutality. The Justice 40 initiative, which was a Biden executive order that aimed to direct 40% of climate investments to underserved Black communities, Trump has dismissed it, said it's a woke overreach, gonna get rid of it. Under the MAGA wing, Black history is under attack. States like South Carolina, Florida, Arkansas have eliminated funding for AP Black history. Nelly, AP Black history, the study of Shirley Chisholm, the study of Toussaint, the study of the recently pardoned Marcus Garvey, the study of X, the study of King, the study of the Harlem Renaissance, the study of the Seven Mystic Years, the study of PBS Pinchback, the study of Frederick Douglass, the study of Denmark Vesey, the study of Nat Turner, the study of Ella Baker and Bayard Rustin, the study of Maya Angelou, the study of all of those people, AP Black history, all aimed at eliminating certain types of curriculum which study and deepen the understanding of the Black experience in America out of here. MAGA doesn't want to hear it, doesn't want to talk about it, right? Doesn't want to do it. Also, just in case, last thing, in the Trump era, white nationalist hate groups have grown by 55%. That's according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, all right? I'm asking Nelly, why do white supremacist hate groups love your guy so much?
Oh my gosh.
I know, deep sigh.
It's exhausting.
Jesus.
Because like what I feel more bad about is the same thing that Olay keeps going back to is like Van Lathan is trying to add value, saying like they're not going to learn about this and this and this, and you think them care? Like, do you think Nelly knew who any of them people was besides Nat Turner, Malcolm X, and MLK?
Nat Turner is powerful.
Like, yeah.
So it's like you're just naming names, man. Come
A
on.
lot of space.
And the thing is too, that's the problem is people have this tendency to think it's just like shit that matters but don't matter. It's clearly how they think about like curriculums and book banning and stuff like that. What do you really like? What I mean, first of all, Van Lathan did an amazing job with that was excellent. But I'm like, I should really say, I would hope people would be more moved by even things like him trying to get rid of like the protections for equal employment. He's trying to make it so like they can literally actively discriminate against you. He's firing people across the board. He's getting rid of any initiative that's designed to help Black people in any way, like squarely, explicitly gone. Like, and I'm not like, that's not hyperbolic. Like, if you ask like why Black people have a problem with him now, it's because he signed in a million different executive orders designed to make sure that Black people don't have shit, can't get shit, can't go to no schools, can't get no jobs, can't sue for any of the discrimination or anything that's happening. So it's like, when you hear this, and I think, you know what I hate about the pleading ignorance thing, is it makes you feel, as people who are in the business of teaching or trying to like share information you think people aren't getting, it makes you feel like it's something you have to do. You feel like, oh shit, do they not know? Have they not been hearing or something about all the things Donald Trump has done or is planning to do? And it's like, yes, they have. Like, yes, they have. I wish they would just say, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I think that's a great point with all those executive orders, you know, whether it's quote unquote DEI related, you know, even one of them was about environmental justice. And I directly work with that. I directly do that. So now you're going to have different impacts of the federal government on communities and areas that are historically impacted negatively by federal actions, whether that's highways or whatever the case may be, whatever construction. And that's a real deal problem. And people are just like pretending that it isn't. And, you know, it's embarrassing that those people, you know, that we're talking about, they don't give a fuck about this shit. So we could just sit here and preach about this shit all we want to. But it's really unfortunate that all the different Black people that are defending them, I hate them. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here like, I really actually hate you, nigga. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I don't hate you. I really hate you at this moment.
I hate you. If you don't understand, I hate you.
I hate what you niggas are gonna turn into. That's really what it is, right? Because like I'm already starting to get these conversations from like the same homeboys that didn't want to talk politics before, or like when I tried to like when I accidentally said like something patriarchal or like something patriarchy, they'd be like, no, you killing the blunt rotation. Like now it's like, bro, yo, he trying to take away citizenship because hell of my homies is half black, half West African, half black, half Haitian. They're like, yo, could they send me back? Oh, now you won't know. Like, but that's not how we went. That's not how we make progress. So like, I can't really say that. I have to take the higher ground. But like, that's what makes it's more about the future because to the real point that I want to make is that if there's anything that we can do, I think that we're tasked to do, is that we have to make the repercussions personal to people that otherwise don't care, right? Like we can't say, oh, he's doing a tariff and tariffs are a tax on people because people is not specific enough. We got to say, bro, Hennessy is going up 35%. Simple, direct.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, yeah.
Like, bro, like you see, yo, Arizona used to be 99. It's on a can though. The can. The law is basically fuck Arizona like tea. Because that like it's gonna be when it really hits people. That and you know, I think we could possibly quickly or we could throw into the pot quickly that, you know, let's be real, a lot of black people are small c conservative, which I think is why this rightward shift is a lot easier. But the thing about people that have conservative mindsets is that, yeah, they have trouble. I won't say they don't have empathy, but they have trouble expressing empathy for things they have not personally experienced or the things that like are outside of their area of competence or experience. So the more we make it personal, probably the easier we can shock them.
Is this also a symptom or situation in anti-intellectualism? Because I think we fell deep into the anti-intellectual hellhole that we exist in right now. And it's baffling to me because the way that people don't celebrate intellect, right? They celebrate false intellect, right? And everybody's smart, everybody people don't respect. I think that's part of like respecting authority and like expertise. People they don't fuck with none of that no more. And everybody know everything because they saw some shit on the internet. They saw some shit on TikTok. They saw some shit on YouTube University. Therefore, they know everything better than somebody who went to medical school for however the fuck long. And so I think we have a deep issue. People are using also like things that have really happened to the black community, whether that's, you know, medical racism and all the different things that have happened to us currently and in the past to shield them from real critiques, if that makes sense. And I think that is a huge issue that we're dealing with. And it's not just black folks, it's everybody. And this shit is ridiculous. It's hard to have real conversations with motherfuckers because everybody does not value that real conversation. I mean, what do we do about that? I don't got the answers to that one, but you value that.
It's of attack on the education system. I think it's important to acknowledge that. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that Democrats are just as complicit because they've had power so many times over the years to actually do things to create effective change and to allow education to be more accessible, and they squandered it every time. Like they did more insider trading than they did like actually fixing problems. And I do also want to note, like, I agree that we have to, like, you know, meet people with empathy and try to make it personal for them, but you is getting jumped once we clean this mess up.
Yeah.
I must, like, I think we are too, well, we do have to meet the people where they at, but once this mess is cleaned up, I think hella you niggas need to be
I'm
jumped.
keeping receipts. Like, yo, you might get repaired or whatever. Like we rehabilitated, but I'm gonna remember.
Like my thing is, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, and yes, like obviously Democrats are complicit. Anybody who's in power has had power, obviously plays a role. But the American people are complicit too. And let me and no one ever wants to say that. It's always don't blame the voters, don't be mad at the people. It's always a reason why the people are not to blame. Like it's not their reason or they don't have a role in it. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that's bullshit. As I watch now, everybody scramble to act outraged. People look like it's like everybody internally running around like SpongeBob trying to delete everything but fine dining, right? And it's like, oh my god, they want to end birth rate. He said this, he said that, he said this, and it's almost like he's doing everything that was outlined
He
in a
said
fucking
he would
document,
do.
and y'all didn't want to hear it. And so it's like for people with this
100%.
energy, yeah, like fuck, like no one's supposed to say it. It's like, oh, like, I told you souls aren't gonna get us anywhere. We're only gonna get this way
No,
through.
they will get us
But,
somewhere.
like,
I disagree. Because
I
like
said
right
this
after the oh sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
go Kenny, go Kenny.
No, I was just gonna say like right after the election, and there was like it was so like contentious that so many people just stopped talking to conservative family members, and they want to come on a TikTok crying and shit. Wow, my whole family dropped me because I voted for things that directly impact them, and they're like, wow, what happened? What happened to just like not letting politics get between us, because you think of this shit as theoretical. And then there was one lady, I remember she got on TikTok and she was like, I hope every Republican that asked for, you know, your ability to get access to abortions, your ability to get access to things to feed your families and your child, I hope you have to deal with that directly. And when she said that, they thought it was a threat. Why do you think if it's something you voted for, why do you think it's a threat? So obviously you're cool with it. Yeah. And I hope you get what you asked for. And so like you come and boohooing to people about like, oh, I don't have access to healthcare anymore. Crazy. Like, I don't know what you want me to say, bitch. Like, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
I think
eggs
it's
was gonna go down, which they're not, and your insulin is now gonna be $1,000, right? Like, and your eggs is
oh
up,
no, it's the
gas is
consequences
up.
of my
You
actions.
know, one of the Biden EOs about healthcare and affordable healthcare, he literally did that, and potentially people's medicine is going to get more expensive from simply doing that. And that's just the truth. And I'm not lying about that. Yeah,
No,
you'll have people delusional about that too.
I think a critical flaw in not society, like literally American culture. I think the bones on which that like most of people build their ideology in this country is that we are both where we love Jason said we're anti-authority, and yet very pro-fascism somehow. I don't know if that's a cause and effect or if those are two separate things. But
the
like,
don't know what them words mean, man.
Right.
I swear
Fact,
to God,
like,
they don't know what the words mean.
But and it's because also America is founded. I was watching a video essay on this morning, like that kind of put it in much more clarity for me. That like, yeah, America has from jump since press start been founded on anti-intellectualism. Like, if we really break it down, right? Like, you know, low key, since I'm here, I got citizenship. I fought with the Boston Tea Party. You know, like they did do the one thing there. However, the way that came about was literally like the colonists caused a bunch of damage, fought a bunch of wars, and then like they knew they were a colony. They knew their benefactor was going to be like, hey guys, y'all going to need to help pay for this. And they were like, we don't want to pay for this. And actually, we don't want you telling us what to do anymore. And I resent you telling me what to do. So I don't want to do anything that you want to do. And like, that's where our first identity came from, for better or for worse, because like, it still was an oppressive dynamic. But like, since that, combined with the Puritan and Protestant work ethic, we don't believe, we get very threatened. Like, our very ideology gets threatened when we do not feel like we're the smartest, or we do not feel we understand immediately. And that kind of influences how we work through everything. Like, that's why we're always talking about, you have to get to the base common denominator. You have to be able to speak. You have to be able to dumb things down enough, specifically, not for the public, it's always for the American public. Because like, America be the one culture that like, no, we want it as stupid as possible. Like, I really need you. You did it like a 10-year-old. I need it like a 5-year-old.
While also lording themselves over the rest of the world as a first world notion, a superpower that has more access to all this information than everybody else. Like, honestly, where I'm at with America, right? Like America, and probably I guess Americans, but America at large, as I've said this, this was my whole gripe the entire election season, is immigrants are most affected by what America decides to do. Every election season, America offers up immigrants like on a plate, like everybody. That's what we can all unite in, is our hatred of immigrants. And my issue has always been is that immigrants are the main ones, are always fodder for American elections, and we're the ones who can't vote. We can't vote. We can't say anything. We can't do anything. And more importantly, like, immigrants don't even, what people don't realize is immigrants don't even get to speak out in the casual way that Americans or everybody can. Like, the way you want to go express what you're upset about on your socials or whatever, immigrants can't do that. The immigrants who are living the consequences of the administrations and the decisions that Americans make cannot speak out like that. Even me, myself, I'm like, I obviously can speak out way more than the average person, period, let alone immigrants. And I can't speak freely about like immigration or what's happening and all these things because you live at the mercy of U.S. immigration. But I say that to say this. Americans decided as a whole, it's not just white Americans or anything like Americans decided they hate each other, but they specifically very much so hate other, and they hate immigrants and immigrants, right? They united around immigrants and other. But what I think is funny is you're about to get treated exactly how immigrants get treated, because the thing about being an immigrant in America is this is the one place where the president had so much power to do what they want. Like in the executive branch, they can do whatever the they want to immigrants. No one knows what they're doing to immigrants. Nobody cares. Nobody is all that red tape you normally have is gone. And that's gone too when you elect a fascist, because all these people, I see all these people keep trying to like calm Americans down. Like, hey, don't worry. What Donald Trump is doing and signing into an executive order is illegal. It's illegal. They're going to challenge and are you dumb? Honestly, I'm actually annoyed by all the organizations that are rushing out to say, oh, they're filing a lawsuit. And I'm like, why are you doing that, you jackass? They want you to file a lawsuit so it could go to the Supreme Court and they can legitimize and make law. Like, why are you acting like y'all didn't already give up the court? You been did that. I've been watching Americans decide shit doesn't matter enough. All these little ways, it doesn't matter. It's already like this. Fascism is already here. It's the same and blah, blah, blah. And now you know what happened? You don't have any checks and balances. You have none. Think about the fact that Donald Trump was not president yet. An app that gets banned or whatever, Congress decides to ban this app. The Supreme Court says, yeah, ban it. That app voluntarily chooses to ban itself, tells you that the who's not president yet is who saved it. And everybody just we're rocking with that. Like, oh, you could use it despite what what the court says. Let me tell you something. The only thing that should be scarier than a Mickey Mouse kangaroo court is a court that has no power. And if you don't know American history, the Supreme Court did not always have power. It used to be a like powerless court until they established that. And you know when it got real dangerous and real hectic and real sticky in America's history during the Brown versus Board times, when southern states and people decided they weren't going to listen to the court anymore. So the court not having any power, Congress deciding, everybody just deciding whatever the Donald Trump can do and wants to do is what's happening. There's no more checks and balances. So my friends who decided immigrants, you in the same position where you now have one doing whatever the he wants to you, and you could think, oh, the law, the Constitution, and all that different stuff, all you want. They firing every right now who even have anything to do with DEI. They're not going to let any.
They telling federal employees. They telling federal employees to snitch on their friends if they've ever had DEI thoughts.
Yep. I'm telling you, you ain't getting shit.
Okay,
like y'all not getting shit.
You ever been to a diversity and inclusion just panel? Let us know. Talk anything.
No, it's
and they're firing them for real.
I don't think people get that whole that he can potentially just ignore the Supreme Court thing. Like there isn't historical precedent for it, and there is. There's actually a huge chunk of it, actually. And that should scare the shit out of y'all. Right. And I don't know why people thought there was going to be some sort of refuge for people, essentially, from all of this shit. And I'm like, no, if they got enough balls to ignore some shit, they just going to ignore it.
I mean, it's a mix of drain pool politics and like American exceptionalism, right? Mm-hmm. Like we get here because we're like, you know what, just for me, not for thee. And like, it hasn't affected me yet. So I guess that means, and I'm being told by the powers that I do trust, that like, it should be all fine. And then even when shit starts to hit the road, shit hits the fan, we're like, well, we're America though. We have a much more powerful court than, Saudi Arabia. Or, like we would never end up like Weimar. And it's like, the reason why that wasn't happening was because we had checks and balances. You gave all the checks.
Yes.
You put it out of balance.
I will also add that, like, I think this is a byproduct of late stage capitalism. Like at the end of it all, fascism is what's at the end of the road for capitalism. The economy is so terrible. It only makes sense for people to fall for the trap of the boogeyman or the immigrant that's going to come and steal everything from you, even though the thief is the person who's telling you that, there is a boogeyman. I think this is a shit show. And I really think it is, truly it is. And I think a lot of people are about to learn the hard way. I frankly, anti-intellectualism, I think Americans are kind of, I hate to say it, Americans are a little dumb.
Stupid.
And
I
Yes.
told y'all.
most of us
On
most
Yeah,
purpose, though.
yeah,
On
they
purpose.
want to be.
We're being trained, like, but where we're incentivized to be. We're
Yeah.
incentivized as a culture to not take it personally, to not think, to
Yeah.
do to action first, and to critical thought is cancerous.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you're stupid for thinking. Actually,
Well,
Yeah.
that's
And you're
exactly-
killing the
no,
vibe,
seriously,
man.
you're stupid for learning. Learning is stupid. That book you're reading, all that
Yeah.
shit, stupid.
It's
I'm getting this money.
yeah, it's like across both sides.
If you ain't
are
getting
not
money-
supposed to question. You are just supposed to assume, oh, hey, things are going to work out. This is America. We're so great. I have friends who are teachers in Chicago and California. They're being trained. Here's what you do when ICE comes. And
Yeah.
I see people online who are like, they can't do that. Schools are safe spaces. That's a law. They can't do that.
Your
It's like,
school for
it's
now.
like, oh, so Trump rescinded that yesterday, and they're like, well, just because he rescinded it doesn't mean that you can't change laws that way. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm sure in Chicago and California, they're going to be like, hey, we're stopping this. We're not going to let it happen. But in Alabama and Texas and stuff, I don't think the schools there are teaching their teachers what to do. So that's
Exactly.
And they're like, well, they're going to sue them about this. Lawsuits will change it. How long? Okay, I'm still waiting for lawsuits to make my student loans go away. That didn't happen.
Y'all watch one episode of Law and Order, and then y'all got a JD.
It really makes me think: were people paying attention in high school?
No, they weren't.
If using Twitter has taught me one thing, no.
It was just us.
Because it's such a common trend, and I'm just sitting here like, I was in high school once. I remember reading some things, and I'm just confused.
You had to do a DBQ. We had to study. No, Jason, I love that you bring that up because I literally was talking to my dad about this, like the day before the inauguration, because I think Rachel Maddow was on MSNBC with her whole, which I only like the black one, but with the whole cast, and they were like, yeah, what are we gonna do? Like how's this happening? And someone just said we did not fail on election day. We failed when we didn't make Roe v. Wade an amendment. We failed when we didn't enshrine this stuff, right? And the first thing I thought was that, you know what sucks? And she was like, people didn't tell their Congress people to make stuff an amendment. I was like, I don't think more than 30% of the country understands the value of an amendment, the difference between a bill or making a committee. They don't even understand the moves you can make on the board. So of course, the only thing they asked for is hey, make it legal. And then the government were like, okay, we'll make it legal through a provision. We'll do an executive action on it. And that is why I'm I do want to blame and give accountability to the American public. But I also sometimes really think back and say no, a lot of people, you have to do, we're nerds. We're all nerds here. But so we all have to do extra effort into even being as educated. And I still don't really know all the mechanisms of the law. I just know enough to know that it's up and there are supposed to be answers. Someone else is using them. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, no, I have two things to what you were saying, right? I think you're right. And the issue that runs into is you get what you see with Nelly, indoctrinated to believe, quote unquote, I respect the office. And that's what happens with Americans very often is they'll be tricked into thinking it's the same way when people the Democrats should have, and they should have expanded the court, did something about the court. That's a serious issue. And they refuse. And the way Republicans were playing on Americans being indoctrinated to believe this is how things need to go and this is how you devout. It's funny. Republicans can simultaneously convince you the court can't be expanded because this is a special number that that has to be on the court. Meanwhile, it's changed. There's nothing in the Constitution
nothing
requires
about it.
They could convince you that while at the same time convincing you this is an anti-establishment king who's going to completely erode all of the things that you just told you are so important and you need to stick to. So I think that's one, Americans really are at a disadvantage of being, well, everybody is always being indoctrinated and propagandized by their governments and whatnot, right? But in this case, Americans really have been, so I'll give them that. So I think the problem with Americans being dumb that being something like we address, right, is like stupidity, is there's only so long people can have sympathy or grace or understanding for people simultaneously being dumb, then also wanting to be in power and put their foot on other people.
Right.
Like Americans wanting to be a superpower that looks down on the rest of the world, that says immigrants are other, that has a problem with immigrants taking this, and the next thing, or even within their own country, right? Like Americans, if you just think of, if we restrict it to like now white Americans, how even like white Americans want to keep all the other different kind of Americans, Black Americans, everybody else out of the room. Like, you're not smart enough. You don't deserve this. It's really DEI. It's really affirmative action. Like, how long are you supposed to have sympathy and grace for a world superpower that has more access to education and resources and whatever have you? They have more ability to know the things they don't know, constantly pleading ignorance while also calling everybody else stupid and unqualified and not deserving of rights or to be in the room. It's like, how long before I keep being like, people get tired of being like, hey, I should coddle the dumb Americans who keep harming everybody.
I mean, that's the irony of like the infighting that they've been doing recently, right? It's like the people that voted explicitly to like disenfranchise even further immigrants and like those who come in to quote take American jobs, and then those same people in the establishment that you are constantly dick sucking, you know, Elon Musk and the like of them, and they're like, yeah, y'all are too stupid to do these jobs actually, so we're gonna outsource to immigrants that we told you were bad, but they're only bad if we can't exploit them as much as possible. And now you're sitting around like surprised Pikachu, like, oh my god, am I also a stupid person being exploited? Like, yes, yes, you are. And now you just f***ed over somebody else too. But at the end of the day, you're just as like, you have all this power but no knowledge.
Yeah,
Or
Which is a
you
dangerous
feel like
dangerous ass cocktail. Dangerous cocktail.
It's like a toddler
to
driving
add-
a tractor.
Th-
It's like, I
this
don't know
topic
what's
of-
going on.
This
it's to
topic
add
of
to what
stupid
you're
ignorance.
saying is like there's so many different layers of contradiction, right? You have people that say like, hey, I want lower prices of eggs, or I want lower prices of all these different items, or let's say goods like vegetables, fruits, and stuff like that. And that has directly to do with immigration, right? And undocumented immigrants and stuff like that. So they're just like, get them out of here. Then when they see the prices go up, they're going to lose their minds. That shit is crazy as to me. To like, what do you do with that contradiction right there? That's a crazy ass contradiction.
I don't want to get too dark. Oh, okay.
Like, I'm trying to understand.
No, because I've been thinking about this lately, especially after like I did get the little RedNote, and like I don't use it obviously, but like I begin the push notification still, and it'd be all in Chinese, and I sat in bed last night and I was like, man, I can't wait for America to not be a main character anymore. Like, I can't wait for us to get to crash out so bad some days that, like, you know what? Maybe all people are able to export their culture easier because just like the name of America has been so dirted, disdained, that they're just like, no, like y'all have proven y'all don't give a y'all are dumb and y'all are loud. Like, we just simply can't trust you anymore. We're now going to listen to Italians or like Koreans or something right now, and like we just gotta deal with that, right?
Because Italian and Chinese. I started taking Chinese once I downloaded.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
it's like I almost feel like we've been dominant for too long. Like I want my hand held. Like maybe we should just follow somebody else's lead for a little bit.
Okay, I'm
get some free healthcare.
Chinese class. I'm all about it. I'm ready for anybody else to take over, and I got it. That's the most spoken language I'm set.
My Korean's rusty, but if we got to make it work, I'll figure it out.
Okay, I'm ready.
Start on hand.
Main character, because I would like to think if we were not the main character, then things would get better. That's my thought process. That might be completely wrong, but I would love for us not to be the main character, because then once people recognize, like they have been recognizing on RedNote, is that like we're not as good as we are. We're not number one at every single thing. I remember I've literally had conversations with people where they're just like, Okay, talk about EVs real quick. Like the Chinese
Talk about
EVs
it.
that they have are way better than ours, or
Wait a minute.
comparable. whatever the
No,
case
no,
may be.
better and a fifth of the price.
Better
And-
fifth of the
and
price.
way
Their
cheaper.
food.
And
You watch.
tell somebody that.
Just
But
what?
it's from China.
Okay, go watch one of the videos. Go watch one of the videos on Xiao Shu Huang, and I will use the appropriate name. Go watch. It's just people grocery shopping, and it's like they get all this stuff, and they get to the top, and they're like, "So that was $15," and Americans are just like, "What, are you kidding me? You just got like
At Aldi?
Like, wait,
housing.
I think too, maybe that's also a part of it going into like the average American can't afford to travel enough to see that this shit is weird.
Yeah.
Like this shit is weird. If you go to Korea, I remember the first time I went to Korea, this is 10 years ago now. Oh my God, I'm old. So it's probably a little different now. But at the time, I had to my name like $50. I was able to feed myself for 3 weeks. I can't buy a meal for $50 here anymore. I don't think y'all realize that this is not normal. Things don't have to go up in price. Like they just arbitrarily.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for saying that, bro.
They were like,
oh my God.
Yeah, just today our insurance is gonna go up 48%. Why? Because we decide that it's gonna go up 48%. Like that. When people have like laws in place that they can't do that, then that doesn't happen. So like when
Netflix is going up $4 on each tier.
Yeah.
And then in the same breath, they just said they went up 60%. They went up 60% in profit.
I knew what was going to happen when they start doing football. I was like, I didn't ask for this shit. I came out here for anime. I don't want to watch this shit.
Don't know when the Monday Night Raw.
Right.
Man, tax them.
I used to like Monday Night Raw, but then I realized it was just like white conservative. Yeah. Kind of like drag. It's a slow. It
is. But it also, we should recognize that I think Monday Night Raw is actually how most Americans think the world ought to work like. That's at least dynamically. That's like you got goods, you got your evils, you got a prize. They're like, this is how they would rather the entire world work, and they filter their entire politics through it.
So much of like the American outlook on things is very black and white and childish. Like there is no nuance. There is because
America,
right?
And we're great. I'm like, what?
Like I remember as we talk about like lowercase c conservatism, right? And like particularly with like older black people, I've had situations where I'm like talking to like my older relatives and I just say, but what about this? And their whole view. And I can only speak as a person who has like older black parents, but I'm sure just older people and just people in general, you just put one little cog in that like black and white thinking and their whole mind is blown. So I wouldn't be to the extent that it's scary to even consider that their entire outlook is not black and white. So they go back to black and white because it's comfortable. But I think the thing with the current administration is like, well, this is the black and white you wanted. It's pretty clear.
Fascism is quite black and white.
Yeah.
It's very
most times literally.
It's very like ostentatious, but okay. Like I feel so powerless, and maybe that's where I'm kind of like, okay, I've said all I can say. I don't know what you want from me.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I've said all I can say, and I think where like not to be a killjoy bitch, right? Because I see like people deeply enjoying their RedNote and talking about all that they're learning and what they see. Let me tell you my problem with that, right? Like, I
don't want to kill the vibe, but
I do. I have a point, right? Because I see all the like Chinese Americans talking about the problem with that is that this is an app that was for international students. This was for mostly for like Chinese international students to keep in touch with their own culture. And because Americans have decided they're going to go on the app and co-opt it because they don't like, you lost one app when you have a bunch of other apps, by the way. Like not to say there aren't significant reasons to be upset about the TikTok ban. And there are deep intellectual reasons. But it's just as far as terms of where to go get your enjoyment, right? It's like, okay, you're going to go jump on this app when you have other apps, this app that was other people's app for them to have to stay connected with home or whatever. And now because Americans are on that.
Being on it, they say it's more like their Pinterest, Instagram for like rich ladies. Like, and if you're on it, it is a lot of like rich ladies.
Videos right now of Chinese international students. They literally,
there are a lot of
which is like same people. and they
Like
and
there
they
are
gonna be
people
rich.
also
honestly, though.
like very much like this is like student like rich people thing. It's not really our TikTok. Like TikTok is a different thing for us.
I'm not saying
And
it's the
like
tip.
I
I'm
would
saying
say
is
there are people who are like, yeah, you guys are kind of taking this over, but maybe learn some Chinese so you know what hashtags to use.
again, that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, I hear that.
But I
But
hear what you
it's
mean about
the fact
the
that there are
settlement
a shit ton
energy
of
that we give.
people who have this app that how they
Big
culturally
seller
connected
energy.
at home. And now, because there are a bunch of Americans on the app, the Chinese government does not like that or whatever. They're like, oh, they're posting information that we don't want you to see because for whatever you say, like China has its own regulations, its own government, its own restrictions, its own free speech suppression of its own. They're like, they don't want what Americans are sharing, like politically different kinds of
Yeah,
things.
they
So
want
they
to
want to make
separate
it.
us.
They want to make two different separate servers,
Yeah.
which fucks the Chinese Americans who live here and were using this app.
RedNote or Xiaohongshu just released an update in the Greater China region with a function to separate out foreign IPs, and there are now talks of moving all foreign IPs to a separate server and having a different IP for those who are in the Greater China area. I know through VPNs and other ways people are still able to access the app, but essentially this is going to kill the app for Chinese Americans who actually uses the app to connect with the Chinese content, Chinese language, Chinese culture. It's a way for me to feel, I don't know, all of this just because we wanted to say fuck you to the US government. I get it, but I just wish it wasn't at the cost of others.
Yeah.
Don't love that. And to say like, a lot of discussion I've seen, especially like my like white friends, white people and creators, I've had this conversation with her like, oh, but we're getting so much benefit out of it. And there's all these like racists and conservatives who are like, oh, I didn't realize this thing. It's like, which is funny because it's a very American logic because that was America's logic, the Supreme Court, for when they even had affirmative action. It was the reason that the compelling interest that the Supreme Court came up with was that diversity benefits white people, like Americans and the rest of them, that by having a few of us in the room, they get to benefit from it. And it's always this way that centers what their benefit is. And for me, I find that frustrating in a country that like America's massive. America has a shit ton of Asian Americans, that has a shit ton of Chinese Americans. I could go to a bunch of towns in America that have their own Chinatown. They have their own China population. If you wanted to, if your true inherent joy was to learn about this culture and you wanted to care and you wanted to be exposed, you could be, but you chose not to. And now the way that you want to do it, that you think should be the primary way, is yucking up these app. I'm like,
you know what? And when you put it like that, it definitely is like a self-report on how the true American pastime is not football nor baseball. It's consumption. It's like the way that we almost like look at it like two alien species meeting, and then one alien species, like the way they show like love or grace is like they just take your things. They're just like, I like you so much, I'll just take that. Like they just take something, right? And then they get mad when people are like, "Could you stop stealing bases?" And we're like, "But like, how else would I show you that I really like you? Like, I want to take you with me." And they don't understand why everybody's so mad about that instinct.
Right.
There's so many different levels to this. I kind of look at it like the way I have to look at things like in the sphere that I work in environmental compliance, environmental science, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of different environmental impacts that impact each other. And then you have to figure out what is the best scenario or situation for everybody. And that's really hard to do because some environmental impacts impact other environmental impacts and, different people and all these different things. You have to come to a decision. And a lot of times these decisions are going to piss people off.
Yeah.
And I have to deal with people who are pissed off all the time because of the thing didn't favor them, but it might have favored like the broader collection, right?
Yeah.
And I think this becomes like really, really difficult. And I think that's a great example of that. And, to go kind of low key, go back to the whole, thing with Black folks and, oh my God, Nelly and Snoop
Oh, right.
not
That's
really,
what this original.
All right.
it's not really.
I mean that's how deep it goes. We will extract value.
To me, it's not really about them. It's about how regular Black folks are like responding to it.
Mhm.
That really bothers me personally.
Yeah.
Seeing
Mhm.
Black people just excuse their behavior, and it's honestly Black capitalism largely, that they think they're going to benefit from and become Donald Trump. What did Nelly say? He had a whole song. He wants to be knocking at the door of the Donald Trumps and the Bill Gates, and said that like 20 some years ago. Like the said that. So
Yeah.
should we be really surprised? Not exactly. It's still disappointing because I'm more disappointed in regular Black folks that seemingly ain't got no sense.
You know,
It's like a Boondocks episode.
To
no, it
add
really
to
is.
try to add a
Karen, play
pinch of
Soulja Boy.
optimism.
Talk Kyle.
Oh yeah.
To try to put a pinch of optimism in there. What I think I do see clearly is the engine of othering that capitalism works on, and the fact that as we go into later and later stages, like the othering of race is starting to become redundant, and in order to like keep more people out, because like the top can never grow. That's like the secret of capitalism, right? We're all promised we can get to the top, but the top has a like strict limit of who they want in that top 1%, top 10%. So over time, you gotta make new distinctions, new enemies, and eventually, I know I'm this copium right now, but like it's the thing I have left, that we are getting closer and closer, very slowly, to the biggest antagonism being between owner class and non-owner class. And I do think once like the 23-year-old white boy coming out of college really understands he can't get a he can't own no businesses, that he has to work for the subsidiary joint venture of Amazon and Walmart, then it's like, okay, I'm gonna need mine. And like then we might have numbers. But so it's like it's a very passive approach, but like capitalism does eat itself from the fact that eventually your distinction will make too many enemies. And I do think humans in numbers can do very simple things. And we just need some simple things. Because what I really wanted to say about Jake Sean's point is that sometimes I feel like this conversation is so hard as someone who's like on the external like assurance compliance side, done ESG audits and like looked at how companies like are trying to mediate these different goals that they have. It's really hard. I'll say it like this. It's really hard to worry about your carbon levels when people don't have universal health care.
Yeah.
It's really hard to pay workers well, to pay even the janitor well, when there's no universal basic income, or there isn't a right to their job. It's really hard to get a person who wants to do the job for love when everybody is one $500 car emergency, medical emergency from being homeless. Yeah. But what literacy conservatives and people that are anti-intellectual will get right is that the people that only read theory will talk very confidently about the solutions they have. But their solutions only work if like a bunch of base assumptions are already done. Like if we had equal playing fields, like not even between races, just between the owner and the working class, maybe some of these things could be alleviated. But like we're at level 0 of like people don't even like. America really is one of the few places in the world I believe where I don't think every citizen themselves believes that you have a right to survive as an American. Like your actual American birthright is the ability to play the game, and somehow you should be proud of that.
No, you're actually right. I think, and that's the funny thing, right? Like on one hand, seeing like people truly believe, like if I take it at face value and I take it as genuine, a bunch of people being like, "Oh, I didn't vote for a white supremacist because he's a white supremacist," is because I thought it would make my eggs cheaper. Let's say I believe that. At least I know your eggs will not be cheaper. Like if I like, I watch the gas already higher. Like I'm like, oh, it's about to be like. But the sad part is like, I know this is what keeps like the 2-party system, going. Is like I know it's gonna reverberate back. Like it's gonna bounce back, because you're not going to get any of the things how you thought life was gonna get better for you. It's like I'm realizing that it honestly might not even be that helpful for me or anybody else to like spend the time trying to explain to you all the ways, like what's actually happening, what's bad and why it is, like we tried to, right? Because no one gave a fuck about the facts. Like last administration or any administration, they never give a fuck about what the facts are. Everything is about how they feel, their emotions, and that trumps everything. And if they feel if the way they feel contradicts the actual facts, then that's the fault of the it's the politicians and everybody else's fault for not, explaining that to them or making that come clear to them. They weren't good at it, right? So I'm like, I know on one hand, it'll bounce back because they were gonna feel upset as shit starts to get terrible, even if they don't know why. They'll feel bad and they'll be like, oh, okay, let me just go to the other option. But the problem with that is the minute it don't feel good, then you don't feel, you know what I mean? No one knows what's going on or why it's going on, and you just keep bouncing between two things and we never really get anywhere. So, I don't know. I guess that was my silver lining, but I guess it's not that silver.
Well, let's if we're trying to be more solution oriented or more, if we're trying to be more forward looking, the thing that's keeping me on, or the thing I'm focusing on even in my own content is like, we don't need any more investigation or analysis. We need imagination. And when I say like we need imagination, I mean, I guess I say unfortunately as a creator, but I'm trying to have more empathy for this, that like not everybody has like a crazy brain like mine and like just thinking about shit all the time. But like people, in order to do shit, need to be told a story that is simple and at the end lets them do something. Right? Like that's all the Tea Party did. That's all MAGA did. That's all they ever do. They just say, hey, you can yell at brown people. Make sure you vote for me at the end. And they were like, well, and the other side was like, please don't yell at brown people. Please stop being racist. And they're like, okay, well, I want to yell at brown people. One party said, I can do it. And the other one was like, hey, right. So it was a story. It's a story that allowed participation, and like, not to go all Bernie Sanders for a second, but it's like, if we like, I truly do believe the thing that is stopping us is us having, and not even, I like, fuck the Democrats. This is what a party's supposed to do. Like what I'm describing is what a $1 billion political project is supposed to be able to do quite easily. But like, even more on the progressive side, if we could meme one main issue into the fact of like, I don't care about anything. All I know is that this choice makes sense. And part of my identity is that I like this choice. Like, I'm 100%. Right. Like yeah. No, hold on. Let me I'm gonna do my example real quick. Oh. Right, we need our propaganda. Like I constantly think about this idea. I read this book called The Deficit Myth that like radicalized me as an economist, because it talks about the debt ceiling and about how like it's not really a thing, and how basically we do like America as a country is in a special position of having McDonald's money. America always got McDonald's money for America things because everybody else uses the dollar. I'm not going to bore people with it, but what it makes you start thinking is like, why can't we give everybody a job? I'm not saying universal basic income. I'm not even fucking talking about minimum wage anymore. I'm saying, why on earth would you not imagine a system in which, in order to survive as a citizen, you just have to be given a job? For example, you tell the government, hey, look, here are my skills. If they say, here's a voucher, I think your skills are worth $75. Figure out, like, go somewhere, give them this voucher.
That's too much imagination.
Right.
You're using your brain
First of all,
too much.
You're going to get called a communist. What I heard just now is communist.
I agree with you, but your average American does not have that type of imagination. If you ask them why something is the way that it is, they'll say because.
Because it is what it is.
and that's all you get. There's a lack of imagination because it's always been that way. Because my parents did it. Because I was told
intended it.
No, not the framers. Lead them dead white man out.
Like they don't like to be told what to do, but they do. People want to be told what to do.